The island's secret wasn't buried underground. It was waiting for the Navy SEAL's dog to remember it. A homeless Navy SEAL bought an impossible-to-sell island. His dog found why nobody lived there. Cole Brennan thought the abandoned island was nothing more than a cheap place to disappear after losing everything. But the moment his retired military K-9 stepped onto the shore, he began acting like he had been there before. As storms rolled over the mountains and strangers emerged from the shadows, an impossible mystery buried for 32 years started coming back to life. Comment 1 if you think you'd explore the island, or 0 if you'd leave immediately, and tell us where you're watching from. The pickup truck coughed and rattled as it climbed the final stretch of mountain road. Cole Brennan tightened his grip on the steering wheel and stared through the windshield at the endless wall of pine trees ahead. The road curved along the edge of a dark mountain lake, disappearing into mist that drifted low across the water. Beside him, Titan sat upright in the passenger seat. The German shepherd's ears were alert. His amber eyes never stopped moving. For nearly 8 years, Titan had ridden beside Cole through every chapter of a life neither of them had expected. The dog had been there when Cole left the Navy. He had been there when Sarah died. He had been there when the bank took the house. And he had been there through every freezing night spent sleeping in truck stops, rest areas, and forgotten parking lots across the western United States. Titan never complained, never judged, never left. Cole glanced at him and managed a tired smile. Almost there, partner. Titan's tail thumped once against the seat. The dog understood more than most people ever realized. The mountain road finally opened onto a small lakeside town. The place looked frozen in time. Weathered storefronts lined the main street. A faded diner stood across from a bait shop. An old church overlooked the water from a nearby hill. The entire town seemed wrapped in silence. Cole drove slowly toward the marina. His truck drew curious glances from locals sitting outside a coffee shop. He knew what they saw. An aging man with gray in his beard, old clothes, a truck that should have been retired years ago. A German shepherd sitting proudly beside him. Most people looked right through men like him. These days, Cole preferred it that way. The marina appeared at the end of the road. A handful of boats bobbed gently against wooden docks. Beyond them stretched the massive lake. Dark, cold, beautiful. And somewhere out there sat Raven Hollow Island. The reason he had driven over 400 miles. The reason he had spent nearly every dollar he still possessed. $900. That was all it had cost. $900 for 12 acres of forest and shoreline nobody wanted. Even now it felt impossible. The online listing had looked almost fake. No photographs beyond a few blurry images. No detailed history. No explanation for the absurdly low price. Just coordinates, a deed, and a number to call. The seller had sounded eager, almost desperate. 3 days later, the paperwork was done. The island was his, at least on paper. Cole parked near the marina office and stepped out. The mountain air was cool and sharp. Titan jumped down beside him. The dog immediately scanned the area. Old habit. Military training never completely disappeared, neither from dogs nor men. Cole grabbed a worn duffel bag from the truck bed and headed toward the dock office. An elderly man behind the counter looked up. His eyes settled on Titan first, then on Cole. "You Brennan?" Cole nodded. "That's me." The old man stood slowly. "You the one bought Raven Hollow?" "Yes." The man's expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough. A slight tightening around the eyes. A brief hesitation. Something that made Cole notice. "I'll need transport across." The old man scratched his jaw. "You sure about that island?" Cole smiled faintly. "I already bought it. Still got time to regret it." The comment hung in the air. Cole waited. The old man didn't elaborate. Instead, he grabbed a set of keys from a hook. "Boat's fueled. Appreciate it." The old man stopped him before he turned away. "People don't stay long out there." Cole met his gaze. Why? The answer never came. The old man simply looked toward the lake, toward the distant fog, then walked away. Outside, Titan stood near the dock, perfectly still. His body had gone rigid. Cole frowned. Titan. The dog wasn't looking at him. He was staring across the water, directly toward the island. A low growl rumbled deep inside his chest. Not loud, not aggressive, but unmistakable. Cole immediately felt his stomach tighten. Titan rarely growled without reason. During their deployments overseas, that sound had often meant danger long before humans detected it. The German shepherd took 2 slow steps forward, hackles rising, eyes locked on something invisible in the distance. Cole followed his gaze. At first he saw nothing, only water, fog, and a dark shape rising from the middle of the lake. Raven Hollow Island. The place looked larger than he expected. Dense forest covered most of its surface. Towering pines crowded together so tightly that the interior appeared almost black. Rocky cliffs guarded portions of the shoreline. The island looked less like property and more like a place forgotten by time. Titan growled again, longer this time. Easy. Cole rested a hand on the dog's neck. Titan remained tense. That bothered him more than he wanted to admit. After years together, he trusted the dog completely. If Titan sensed something, there was usually a reason. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "You actually bought it?" Cole turned. A woman stood near the next dock, mid-30s, dark hair tied beneath a ranger's cap, green field jacket, confident posture. She looked like someone accustomed to spending more time outdoors than inside. Depends who's asking. The woman smiled. "Rachel Dawson." She extended a hand. "Conservation officer." Cole shook it. "Cole Brennan." "I know." That caught his attention. Rachel nodded toward the island. "News travels fast around here." Cole glanced at the water. "I guess it does." Rachel studied him for a moment, then looked at Titan. The dog was still focused on the island. Still tense. "Interesting dog." "Retired military K9. Rachel nodded slowly. "He seems to know something." Cole laughed softly. "He's probably just tired of being in the truck." But even as he said it, he wasn't convinced. Rachel's expression grew more serious. "You know the history of Raven Hollow?" "No." "Then whoever sold it to you left out some important details." The breeze shifted. The fog over the lake moved like drifting smoke. Rachel folded her arms. 32 years ago, a family lived on that island. Cole listened. One day they disappeared. His smile faded. "What happened?" "No one knows." "Missing persons?" Rachel nodded. "Entire family." The words landed heavily. "Nobody found them?" "No." The lake suddenly felt colder. Rachel looked toward the distant shoreline. The case was never solved. Cole waited. She seemed reluctant to continue. Finally, she sighed. "Most people around here don't even like talking about it." "Why?" Rachel shrugged. "Fear." The answer sounded sincere. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just honest. Fear. Cole looked at the island again. The forest appeared darker now, the silence deeper. Titan growled for the 3rd time. Rachel noticed. "So did you, what?" The dog, She nodded toward Titan. He doesn't like it. Cole rubbed the back of his neck. He usually has a reason. Neither spoke for a moment. Waves lapped gently against the dock. Somewhere a gull cried overhead. The mountain peaks surrounding the lake disappeared behind drifting clouds. Rachel finally broke the silence. Just be careful out there. Cole smiled. Comes with the territory. Rachel returned the smile, but concern remained in her eyes. Then she walked away. Cole watched her leave. The conversation lingered. Missing family. Fear. An island nobody wanted. None of it made much sense. Yet he couldn't deny something strange sat beneath the surface. Something everyone seemed unwilling to discuss. Titan nudged his hand. Cole looked down. The German shepherd finally broke his stare toward the island. For a moment, their eyes met. The same eyes that had once watched his back in deserts thousands of miles away. The same eyes that had helped pull him through nights when grief nearly crushed him. You and me, buddy. Titan's ears twitched. Cole looked out across the water once more, toward the dark silhouette waiting beyond the fog. Maybe the island was nothing more than old stories. Maybe the locals were trapped by rumors. Or maybe something had happened out there all those years ago. Something nobody had ever explained. Either way, he had nowhere else to go. For the first time in years, a place belonged to him. Even if that place came with secrets. Cole grabbed the last of his supplies. Titan moved to his side. Together they stepped onto the weathered dock. The ferry boat rocked gently beneath their weight. Behind them lay everything Cole had lost. Ahead waited Raven Hollow Island, and neither man nor dog knew that the island had already begun pulling them toward a truth buried for more than 3 decades. A truth Titan seemed to recognize long before anyone else. The boat engine rumbled to life. The fog thickened across the dark water. And slowly, Raven Hollow Island began to grow larger on the horizon. Waiting. Watching. Silent. Raven Hollow Island grew larger with every passing minute. Cole Brennan stood near the bow of the small ferry boat as cold wind swept across the dark mountain lake. The water looked almost black beneath the overcast sky, reflecting the jagged outlines of distant peaks. Titan remained beside him. The German shepherd had not relaxed once since leaving the marina. His eyes stayed fixed on the island. His ears remained forward. Every muscle in his body looked prepared for something. Cole noticed it, and despite years of military discipline, it made him uneasy. The island itself seemed different now that they were approaching it. From shore, Raven Hollow had appeared mysterious. From the water, it looked abandoned. Ancient pines crowded the shoreline. Towering granite cliffs rose from the lake like fortress walls. Mist drifted through the trees, hiding much of the interior. There were no signs of life. No smoke, no lights, no movement. Only silence. The boat captain refused to speak during the crossing. The older man kept his eyes forward and one hand on the wheel. When Cole attempted conversation, he received only short answers. By the time the island's dock came into view, the captain looked eager to leave. The wooden structure extended into the lake from a narrow cove. Several sections leaned noticeably. Part of the railing had collapsed years ago. No one had bothered repairing it. The captain cut the engine. The boat drifted against the dock with a dull thud. That's it. Cole nodded. The old man immediately began unloading supplies. No small talk, no farewell speech. Nothing. Just urgency, as if remaining near the island longer than necessary was something to avoid. Within minutes, Cole's duffel bags, food containers, tools, and camping gear sat stacked on the dock. The captain untied the boat, then hesitated. For the first time during the trip, he looked directly at Cole. If you hear things at night, he stopped. Cole waited. The old man swallowed, then shook his head. Never mind. The engine started. Moments later, the boat was pulling away. By the time Cole thought of another question, the ferry was already halfway across the lake. Titan watched it disappear, then turned toward the forest. A low whine escaped him. Not fear. Recognition. The sound sent a chill through Cole. Let's find our new home. Together they began moving inland. A narrow trail led away from the dock. Branches arched overhead. The forest immediately swallowed them. The temperature dropped noticeably beneath the dense canopy. Sunlight struggled to reach the ground. Needles carpeted the earth. The air smelled of damp moss and pine sap. Titan walked slightly ahead. His nose worked constantly. Occasionally he paused to study something invisible, then continued. Cole followed. The deeper they traveled, the more isolated he felt. No traffic, no distant voices, no sounds except wind moving through the trees. For a man who had spent years sleeping beside highways and truck stops, the silence felt almost overwhelming. An hour later, they found the cabin. It stood near a rocky shoreline overlooking the western side of the island. The structure leaned slightly, but remained intact. Weathered cedar boards covered the exterior. A stone chimney rose from one side. Several windows were cracked. One shutter hung loose. Still, compared to sleeping in a pickup truck, it looked like a mansion. Cole smiled for the first time that day. Not exactly beachfront property. Titan sniffed the front porch, then climbed the steps. The cabin door groaned as Cole pushed it open. Dust floated through beams of weak afternoon sunlight. The interior smelled old but dry. A cast-iron stove occupied one corner. A wooden table sat near the windows. 2 chairs remained upright. A narrow staircase led to a loft. Someone had once loved this place. That much was obvious. Cole set down his gear. For several moments, he simply stood there, breathing, listening. The cabin wasn't much, but it was his. After years of drifting, that thought carried surprising weight. A roof, walls, a place that belonged to him. The emotion arrived unexpectedly. Sarah would have loved the view. The thought struck like a knife. Cole looked away from the windows. The familiar ache returned. Even after 2 years, grief remained unpredictable. Sometimes it appeared quietly. Other times it hit with full force. Today it arrived through memory. He could almost hear her laughter, almost see her standing beside the lake. The image vanished quickly, but the pain lingered. Titan approached. Without a word, the dog pressed against his leg. Cole rested a hand on the shepherd's neck. The simple gesture grounded him. It always had. Thanks, buddy. Titan remained beside him. Steady, reliable, present. Something Sarah used to admire. You two save each other, she often said. Maybe she had been right. The rest of the afternoon passed in work. Cole cleaned the cabin, stacked supplies, inspected the roof, collected firewood. Titan remained close throughout the process. Occasionally the dog wandered to the tree line, only to return moments later. As sunset approached, the island transformed. Golden light spilled across the lake. Long shadows stretched between the pines. The mountains glowed orange against the darkening sky. For a brief moment, Raven Hollow looked peaceful. Beautiful, even. Cole sat on the porch steps holding a tin cup of coffee. Titan rested nearby. The lake reflected the fading sunset like polished glass. This was exactly what he wanted. Distance. Silence. A fresh start. Then Titan stood abruptly. His ears snapped forward. The dog's gaze locked onto the forest. Every muscle tensed. Cole immediately noticed. What is it? Titan didn't move, didn't bark, didn't growl, just stared. The behavior continued for nearly 30 seconds, then suddenly stopped. The dog relaxed and returned to the porch. Cole frowned. Something was bothering him. Something beyond normal wildlife. As darkness settled across the island, an uncomfortable feeling emerged. Not danger exactly, more like being watched. The sensation followed him into the cabin. The feeling lingered while he lit the stove. It remained as he prepared dinner, and it still lingered when night finally arrived. Outside, the forest disappeared into darkness. The island became a silhouette beneath the stars. Wind moved softly through the pines. Branches creaked. Water lapped gently against the shoreline. Yet despite the peaceful sounds, sleep refused to come easily. Cole lay on a narrow cot near the stove. Titan rested beside the door. Hours passed. Sometime after midnight, Cole awoke suddenly. His military instincts snapped him alert. The cabin was silent. The fire had burned low. Moonlight spilled through the windows. For a moment, he didn't know what had disturbed him. Then he saw Titan. The dog was standing, rigid, facing the front door, listening. Cole sat upright. Titan. No response. The shepherd remained focused. A low rumble emerged from his chest. Cole reached for the flashlight beside the cot. His pulse quickened. The old instincts returned immediately. Years of training, years of deployments, the knowledge that something wasn't right. Slowly, he moved toward the window. Outside, the forest stood motionless. Nothing moved. Nothing visible anyway. Then he saw it. Far beyond the trees. A brief flash of light. Gone almost instantly. Cole froze. A flashlight. Someone was out there. Not on the mainland. Not across the lake. On the island. The light appeared again. Just for a second. Then disappeared behind the trees. Cole felt every nerve tighten. Titan growled softly. The same growl he'd given while staring toward Raven Hollow from the dock. Someone else was here. The realization settled heavily inside him. The island wasn't as abandoned as everyone claimed, and somewhere beyond the darkness, hidden among the pines, someone was moving through the night. Watching. Silent. Waiting. Cole Brennan remained beside the cabin window long after the flashlight vanished. Moonlight filtered through the trees outside. The forest stood motionless. Nothing moved. Nothing revealed itself. Yet the feeling remained. Someone had been there. Not a hunter. Not a tourist. Someone moving carefully. Watching. Titan never left the door. The German shepherd stood frozen for nearly 20 minutes, ears forward, eyes locked on the darkness beyond the cabin. Eventually, the growl faded. The tension slowly drained from his posture, but he never fully relaxed. Neither did Cole. Sleep came only in short stretches. Each creak of the cabin pulled him awake. Each gust of wind sent his mind searching for threats. Old habits. Old scars. The kind that never completely disappeared. By dawn, pale sunlight spilled across the lake. The island looked peaceful again. Almost innocent. Cole stepped outside with a steaming cup of coffee. Mist drifted over the water. Birds called from somewhere deep in the forest. The night felt distant now, like a dream. Titan emerged beside him. The dog immediately scanned the shoreline, then the woods, then the ridge above the cabin. Always working, always protecting. Cole scratched behind his ears. You see something I don't? Titan stared toward the forest. His tail remained still. The answer was obvious. Yes. The dog saw something. The problem was figuring out what. After breakfast, Cole decided to investigate. If someone truly was on the island, he wanted answers. He grabbed a small backpack, filled it with water, snacks, a flashlight, and basic supplies. Titan waited impatiently by the trail, as if he'd already chosen their destination. The forest swallowed them within minutes. Morning sunlight struggled to reach the ground beneath the thick canopy. Towering pine trunks stretched upward like columns in some forgotten cathedral. The deeper they traveled, the quieter everything became. Cole noticed something strange. Titan wasn't wandering. He wasn't exploring. He was following a route. Purposefully. Directly. The dog moved with confidence, occasionally stopping, checking the air, then continuing, as though he knew exactly where he wanted to go. That bothered Cole. Titan had never set foot on Raven Hollow Island before, at least not that Cole knew of. Yet the shepherd behaved like a guide returning to familiar ground. Hours passed. The terrain became rougher. Ancient roots twisted across the forest floor. Moss-covered boulders emerged from the earth. The trees grew older, larger, the forest darker. Then Titan suddenly stopped. His ears lifted. His body stiffened. Not in alarm, in excitement. The dog hurried forward. Cole followed. A clearing appeared ahead. At its center stood the remains of an old stone structure. The building had once been impressive. Even now its foundations suggested wealth and craftsmanship. Massive stone walls still stood in places. Collapsed beams lay scattered across the ground. Nature had slowly reclaimed everything. Trees grew through sections of the ruins. Vines covered the stonework. The place looked abandoned for decades. Cole walked slowly among the remains. Maybe this belonged to the family. Titan ignored him. The dog was already moving, searching, sniffing, focused. His nose tracked across the ground near what appeared to be the center of the old building. Then he started digging, hard, fast. Dirt flew behind him. Pine needles scattered. Roots snapped beneath powerful paws. Cole watched for a moment, then frowned. Titan? The digging intensified. Something had captured the dog's full attention. Cole approached. At first he saw only dirt, then wood. A flat surface hidden beneath decades of debris. His pulse quickened. Together they cleared more soil. The shape became obvious. A trapdoor. Old. Weathered. Hidden beneath roots and earth. Cole stared at it in disbelief. Someone had deliberately concealed it. Titan stepped back. Watching. Waiting. As if he'd completed his task. Cole knelt beside the door. The metal handle remained intact. Rust covered much of its surface, but it still moved. With considerable effort, he pulled. The hinges groaned. Dust erupted upward. Cool air escaped from below, a hidden room. For several seconds, neither man nor dog moved. The opening descended into darkness. Cole activated his flashlight. The beam revealed wooden steps disappearing underground. "Well, partner," he swallowed. "I don't think that's normal." Titan immediately started downward. Cole followed. The underground chamber was larger than expected. Dry, protected, untouched. The air carried the scent of old paper and aged wood. Shelves lined the walls. Crates occupied corners. Furniture remained covered beneath dusty sheets. It felt less like a bunker and more like a room abandoned in a hurry, like someone planned to return, but never did. Cole slowly explored. His flashlight swept across decades of forgotten history. Books, lanterns, tools, boxes, then photographs, hundreds of them. Families smiling beside the lake, children fishing from docks, picnics beneath summer sunshine, birthdays, holidays, Ordinary moments frozen in time. The Donovan family. They looked happy, normal, alive. Nothing about the pictures suggested tragedy. Yet every face belonged to someone who had vanished. Cole felt an unexpected sadness. Entire lives reduced to forgotten photographs. Entire stories abandoned beneath the ground. Titan moved carefully through the room. His excitement had disappeared. Now he seemed thoughtful, focused. Several times he paused beside specific objects, lingering longer than expected. Cole noticed but said nothing. Then he found the journals, dozens of them. Leather-bound notebooks stacked neatly inside a wooden chest. The earliest entries appeared ordinary. Descriptions of island life, fishing trips, construction projects, family gatherings. But as years passed, the tone changed. The writing grew darker, more cautious. Mentions of strangers, concerns about being watched, references to hidden preparations, emergency plans, escape routes. One sentence appeared repeatedly. They're getting closer. Cole turned pages faster. The entries became increasingly alarming. Fear practically bled through the ink. The family knew something was wrong. The question was what? Hours slipped by. Finally, he reached the last journal. Near the end. The handwriting appeared rushed, uneven. The final entry occupied only half a page. Cole read silently, then read it again. His stomach tightened. The final words said, "Someone has reached the island. If we disappear, trust the guardian." Nothing followed. No explanation. No names. No ending. Just silence. The story simply stopped, as if the writer had been interrupted. Titan suddenly approached. The dog rested his nose against the journal, then looked directly at Cole. For a brief moment, the shepherd's expression seemed almost human. Not intelligence, recognition. As if he understood the importance of what they'd found. As if some distant memory stirred beneath the surface. A chill traveled down Cole's spine. The room suddenly felt different. He wasn't standing inside abandoned storage. He was standing inside the final chapter of a mystery 32 years old. Outside, afternoon shadows stretched across the clearing. The island remained silent, but nothing felt empty anymore. Someone had hidden this room. Someone had left clues. Someone wanted the truth discovered. And somehow, for reasons Cole could not explain, Titan had led him directly to it. The retired military dog sat quietly beside the open journal, watching, waiting, as if he knew this was only the beginning. Titan remained beside the open journal while late afternoon sunlight filtered through the hidden room. Cole Brennan slowly closed the weathered notebook. The final words echoed in his mind. "If we disappear, trust the guardian." The sentence felt important, not because he understood it, because he didn't. Who was the guardian? A person? A place? Some kind of code? The deeper he looked into the Donovan family's story, the more questions appeared. Titan nudged his hand. The German shepherd seemed eager to move. Reluctantly, Cole packed several journals, maps, and photographs into his backpack. He intended to bring them back to the cabin and study them more carefully. Before leaving, he took one last look around the hidden chamber. Dust floated through the beam of his flashlight. The room felt strangely personal now, not abandoned, paused, like a conversation interrupted decades ago. The walk back to the cabin felt different. The island no longer seemed empty. Every tree appeared to hide secrets. Every shadow seemed connected to the vanished family. Titan led the way with quiet confidence. Several times he stopped at intersections in the forest and chose directions without hesitation. Cole noticed. The dog wasn't wandering. He was navigating. That realization unsettled him. By the time they reached the cabin, clouds had begun gathering over the mountains. The lake reflected dark gray skies. Wind rippled across the water. A storm might arrive within a day or two. Cole spent the evening reading. Journal after journal revealed fragments of the Donovan family's life. Robert Donovan had purchased Raven Hollow Island more than 40 years earlier. His wife, Margaret, had loved the isolation. Their 2 children spent summers exploring forests and fishing from the docks. The entries painted a picture of happiness. For a while. Then subtle changes emerged. Certain passages became guarded, suspicious. Mentions of strangers appearing near the island. Unfamiliar boats on the lake. People asking questions about the family. Questions Robert never explained. By midnight, Cole's head hurt from trying to connect pieces that refused to fit together. Titan slept near the stove. At least he appeared asleep. Every few minutes, one ear would twitch toward the windows, always listening, always alert. The next morning brought rain. Not heavy, just a steady drizzle drifting across the lake. Cole brewed coffee and continued reading. Around mid-morning, the distant sound of an engine echoed across the water. Titan was on his feet instantly. Cole stepped onto the porch. A small boat approached through the rain. Rachel Dawson sat at the helm. The conservation officer guided the vessel toward shore and tied it to the dock. "You look busy," Cole smiled. "You have no idea." Rachel climbed onto the porch. Titan sniffed her hand before settling nearby. The dog seemed comfortable around her. That alone earned a little trust. Cole carried a stack of journals to the table. Rachel's eyes widened. "Where did you find all this?" "Hidden room beneath an old stone lodge." For several seconds, she simply stared. Then she sat down. "You actually found something. I think I found a lot more than something." The next 2 hours passed in concentrated silence. Rachel read, compared notes, cross-referenced names and dates. Her knowledge of local history filled gaps Cole couldn't understand alone. Together they slowly reconstructed the Donovan family's story. And it was stranger than either expected. They were wealthy, Rachel explained. Not billionaire wealthy, but very successful. She pointed toward an old photograph. Robert Donovan owned several timber operations and large tracts of land around northern Idaho. Cole studied the image. The man looked confident, strong, the kind of person who planned years ahead. What happened? Rachel sighed. That's what nobody knows. She flipped through another journal. The official theory was voluntary disappearance. Cole laughed softly. Based on what? Nothing convincing. Rachel leaned back. The family left behind property, equipment, bank accounts, vehicles. People don't walk away from all that. She paused. Especially not overnight. The rain intensified outside. Water drummed against the roof. Cole opened another notebook. Several passages immediately caught his attention. The Donovan family had become increasingly concerned about being watched. They discussed security measures, emergency supplies, contingency plans. One entry mentioned hidden routes across the island. Another referenced backup locations if the main house became unsafe. It sounded less like ordinary caution and more like preparation. Preparation for something dangerous. Rachel noticed the same pattern. They were scared. Cole nodded. Of somebody specific. Neither spoke for a moment. Titan suddenly stood. His head turned toward the table. The dog stared directly at one of the old maps. Cole frowned. What is it? Titan approached. His nose touched the paper. Then another section. Then another. The behavior repeated 3 times. Rachel exchanged a glance with Cole. Is he doing what I think he's doing? I don't know. Cole spread the map flat. Several locations on the island had been marked using symbols, small circles, triangles, squares. No explanations accompanied them. Titan placed a paw beside one of the circles, then looked up. Rachel laughed nervously. That's creepy. Cole couldn't disagree. The German Shepherd seemed unusually interested in those specific locations, almost as though he recognized them. The thought felt impossible, yet impossible things kept happening on Raven Hollow. Rachel carefully copied the marked positions into a notebook. We should visit these places. Cole agreed immediately. If the Donovan family had hidden clues, the map might reveal them. Hope began replacing uncertainty. For the first time since arriving on the island, they possessed direction, purpose. Answers might actually exist. The afternoon brought a break in the rain. Rachel prepared to leave before weather worsened. As she packed her equipment, another boat appeared on the lake. This one larger, older, a commercial fishing vessel. The man operating it looked to be in his 60s. Weathered face, broad shoulders, gray beard. Someone shaped by decades outdoors. The boat approached the dock. Rachel's expression shifted slightly. You know him? Everybody knows him. The man stepped onto shore carrying a small cooler. His smile appeared friendly. Easy. Comfortable. Afternoon. Cole nodded. Afternoon. The newcomer extended a hand. Grant Holloway. Cole shook it. Cole Brennan. The new island owner. Grant chuckled. Town's been talking about you. His eyes moved briefly toward the cabin, then the journals on the table, then Titan. The glance lasted only seconds, but Cole noticed. Grant noticed the documents immediately. So how are you liking Raven Hollow? Still figuring it out. Grant nodded. Place has a lot of history. Rachel remained unusually quiet. Grant set down the cooler. Brought some fresh trout. Appreciate it. Figured you could use a neighborly welcome. The gesture seemed kind, genuine even. Yet something about Grant felt difficult to read. Perhaps it was the way his attention kept drifting toward the journals, or how quickly he asked his next question. Found anything interesting yet? Cole hesitated, only briefly. But Grant noticed. The fisherman smiled. Just curious. Rachel suddenly stood. I should get going before weather turns again. Grant looked toward her, then back to Cole. The moment passed. Conversation shifted. Yet throughout the visit, Grant continued asking questions. Harmless questions. Specific questions. Questions about where Cole had explored, what he'd discovered, how much of the island he'd seen. Nothing openly suspicious. Just enough to plant a seed of doubt. An hour later, Grant finally returned to his boat. Before leaving, he pointed toward the forest-covered hills. Beautiful place. His smile lingered, but some things are better left buried. Then he climbed aboard and departed. The fishing boat disappeared into the growing fog. Rachel watched it go. So. Cole crossed his arms. So. Rachel hesitated. I don't fully trust him. The statement surprised him. You know him. I know of him. She looked toward the distant lake. He's lived here forever. Problem? Rachel thought carefully before answering. No problem. A pause. Just something I can't explain. That made two of them. As evening settled over Raven Hollow Island, Cole stood on the porch studying the marked map. Titan lay beside his chair. The dog seemed calmer now, satisfied somehow, like he had accomplished part of a mission only he understood. The marked locations waited. The hidden room had answered some questions, raised dozens more, and somewhere among the forests of Raven Hollow Island, the next clue was waiting. Titan already seemed to know exactly where it was. The following morning arrived beneath a blanket of gray clouds. A cold wind swept across the lake, rattling the cabin windows before sunrise. Brennan was already awake. Years in the military had trained him to rise early, and the events of the past few days had left his mind too restless for sleep. He sat at the wooden table studying the map Rachel had copied from the Donovan journals. Several locations remained marked with strange symbols. No explanations, no legends, just clues left behind by people who had vanished 32 years earlier. Titan lay near the stove. At least he appeared relaxed. The moment Cole folded the map and stood, the German shepherd was instantly on his feet. Ready, watching, waiting. Looks like you've got another destination in mind. Titan's ears perked. Cole smiled despite himself. The dog seemed to understand. After a quick breakfast, they left the cabin and headed deeper into the island. Fog drifted between the pines. Moisture clung to every branch. The forest felt quieter than usual. Even the birds seemed absent. Titan led confidently. His pace never faltered. Every few hundred yards he would stop briefly, check the air, then continue. The behavior felt increasingly deliberate. By mid-morning they reached a narrow ridge overlooking the northern shoreline. The view was breathtaking. Dark water stretched toward distant mountains. Whitecaps rolled across the lake beneath the strengthening wind. Cole paused to admire it. Titan did not. The dog suddenly veered downhill toward a dense section of forest. Within minutes, they entered terrain unlike anything near the cabin. The trees grew closer together. The underbrush thickened. Massive boulders emerged from the earth like ancient monuments. The place felt forgotten. Hidden. Titan accelerated, then stopped abruptly. His nose hovered inches above the ground. Cole immediately noticed the change. What is it? The dog followed a scent trail through the trees. Cole crouched. At first he saw nothing unusual. Then his stomach tightened. Boot prints. Fresh boot prints. Not old impressions. Not weathered tracks. Fresh. The edges remained sharp. Rain from the previous day hadn't touched them. Someone had walked here recently. Very recently. Cole's pulse quickened. The flashlight he had seen several nights ago suddenly felt much more real. Someone was definitely on Raven Hollow Island, and not just passing through. Titan continued tracking. The prints wound through the forest for nearly half a mile. Eventually, they reached a small clearing hidden among the trees. Cole froze. A campsite, recently abandoned. A fire ring sat at the center. Several logs had been arranged as seats. A tarp shelter stood between two pines. Someone had lived here. Not years ago, recently. Cole moved cautiously. Old instincts returned. His eyes scanned every angle, every shadow, every possible hiding place. The fire pit still contained ashes. Cole knelt beside it. The charcoal remained dry, cold, but not ancient, a few days old at most. Titan sniffed the perimeter. His ears remained forward, focused, alert. Cole studied the campsite carefully. There were no personal items, no identification, no obvious clues. Whoever had used the camp had removed nearly everything, almost professionally. Then Titan stopped near a fallen log. The dog pawed at the ground. Cole approached. Buried beneath leaves was a discarded food wrapper. Modern, recent, another confirmation. Someone had been here, and they wanted no one to know. The realization sent unease crawling through him. The mystery wasn't history anymore. It wasn't confined to old journals and forgotten stories. Someone was actively protecting whatever happened on this island. Someone who still moved through these woods. Watching. Waiting. Perhaps watching him right now. A sharp crack echoed somewhere deeper in the forest. Cole spun instantly. Titan growled. Both froze. Silence followed. No movement. No voices. Only wind moving through the trees. Yet the feeling returned. That sensation from the first night. Being observed. Cole slowly backed away from the campsite. He trusted his instincts, and his instincts were screaming that lingering here was a mistake. The hike back toward the cabin felt longer than usual. Every shadow seemed suspicious. Every sound demanded attention. Titan remained close, occasionally glancing behind them, monitoring their back trail. When they finally reached the shoreline, Cole felt relief, but only briefly. Something immediately caught his attention. The cabin door stood slightly open. His pulse surged. He knew he had closed it, locked it. Titan reacted instantly. The shepherd moved ahead. Low growl, rigid posture. Cole approached cautiously. Years of training took over. Every movement became controlled, deliberate. Inside, nothing appeared damaged. The table stood where he'd left it. The chairs remained untouched. The stove sat cold. For a moment he wondered if he'd imagined it. Then he saw the journals. His stomach dropped. The wooden box sat open. Several notebooks were gone. Not all of them. Just enough. Someone had entered the cabin. Someone had searched through his discoveries, and someone had taken specific documents. Titan moved through the room, sniffing, tracking. The dog stopped near the back window, his nose pressed against the frame. Then he looked toward the forest. The intruder hadn't arrived by boat. They had come through the woods. Cole lowered himself into a chair. The reality settled heavily on his shoulders. This was no longer curiosity, no longer adventure. Someone knew what he was finding. Someone was monitoring his progress, and someone had decided certain information couldn't remain in his possession. Late that afternoon, another boat appeared at the dock. Rachel Dawson stepped onto shore carrying a waterproof folder. The moment she saw Cole's expression, her smile disappeared. What happened? Cole showed her the missing journals, then described the campsite, the footprints, the open cabin. Rachel listened without interrupting. When he finished, she stared toward the forest. I was afraid of this. Cole frowned. You expected it? No. She hesitated. But I've always believed somebody knew more than they admitted. The wind intensified. Dark clouds gathered over the mountains. Rachel opened the folder she had brought. Inside were copies of old newspaper articles, photographs, investigation notes, records from the original Donovan disappearance. One article immediately caught Cole's attention. The headline read, Local search for Donovan family ends without answers. The article included a photograph, several investigators standing near the island's dock, volunteers searching the shoreline. Then something else, a handwritten note attached to the clipping. Rachel pointed to it. Look at the date. Cole did. The note had been written only 3 years after the family vanished. Someone had anonymously mailed it to the sheriff's office. The message contained only 6 words. They're still protecting the island. No signature. No explanation. Nothing else. Cole stared at the paper. The hairs on his neck rose. 32 years. And somehow the mystery had remained alive. Rachel closed the folder. Whatever happened to the Donovans didn't end back then. The lake darkened beneath approaching storm clouds. The forest surrounding the cabin seemed to grow heavier, more threatening. Titan stood near the porch, watching the trees, watching the same direction he had watched since arriving on Raven Hollow Island. Rachel followed his gaze, then looked back at Cole. "What are you going to do?" Cole stared toward the forest, toward the hidden campsite, toward the unknown person moving through the island. His answer came easily. "The same thing I did for 20 years. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Cole's expression hardened. "I'm going to find the truth." Far beyond the cabin, deep within the pines, a branch snapped. Neither of them saw who made the sound, but someone was there, watching. And now they knew exactly where Cole Brennan lived. The realization lingered long after Rachel Dawson's boat disappeared across the lake. Evening settled heavily over Raven Hollow Island. Dark clouds gathered over the mountains. The wind had changed. Stronger now. Colder. The forest seemed restless. Branches swayed overhead. Pine needles whispered against one another. Titan sat on the cabin porch facing the tree line, alert, motionless. Cole had seen that posture countless times overseas. The dog wasn't relaxing. He was standing watch. That alone told him everything he needed to know. Someone was still out there. The missing journals sat like a weight on his mind. The intruder hadn't stolen food, hadn't taken equipment, hadn't damaged anything. Whoever entered the cabin had come for one reason: information. That fact bothered Cole more than the theft itself. It meant someone understood exactly what those journals contained, and exactly what they wanted hidden. As darkness approached, Cole secured the cabin. Windows checked, doors locked, flashlights prepared. Old habits returned effortlessly, the kind of preparation that once kept men alive in dangerous places. Titan followed him room to room, never more than a few feet away. When night finally arrived, rain began falling, soft at first, then steadily harder. The storm clouds that had been building all afternoon finally reached the island. Thunder echoed across the mountains. Lightning flickered beyond the lake. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled quietly. Cole sat at the table reviewing Rachel's copies of the Donovan records. The room felt smaller tonight. The shadows deeper. The mystery closer. Several hours passed. Then Titan stood abruptly. The German shepherd's head turned toward the lake. Not the forest, the shoreline. Cole immediately noticed. "What is it?" Titan moved toward the front window, ears forward, focused. Cole joined him. At first he saw only darkness and rain. Then another flash of lightning illuminated the lake. A boat. A small vessel moving through the storm, headed directly toward Raven Hollow Island. Cole's pulse quickened. The boat disappeared back into darkness. Then lightning flashed again. Closer this time. Definitely approaching. Titan emitted a low growl. The boat eventually reached the dock. Cole watched from inside. A lone figure climbed onto shore carrying a flashlight. The man moved confidently, as if he already knew exactly where he was going. Within minutes, there was a knock at the cabin door. 3 firm raps, nothing more. Cole opened the door cautiously. Rain blew inside. A tall man stood beneath the porch roof. Early 50s, lean build, weathered face, dark jacket soaked from the storm, sharp eyes that immediately noticed everything. The man looked past Cole, past the cabin, past the obvious. His attention briefly settled on Titan, then returned. "You're Cole Brennan." Not a question, a statement. Cole remained guarded. "Who's asking?" The stranger offered a hand. "Logan Pierce." Cole didn't shake it immediately. Logan seemed unsurprised. Sorry for showing up late. He glanced toward the lake. Storm moved in faster than expected. Cole waited. Logan eventually lowered his hand. I've been hoping to meet you. That statement didn't improve matters. Titan moved closer. The dog positioned himself beside Cole, watching the stranger carefully. Logan noticed. Beautiful dog. Titan growled softly. The man smiled. Guess he doesn't agree. Cole finally stepped aside. Come in. Logan entered. Water dripped from his jacket onto the floor. The cabin suddenly felt crowded, smaller. The stranger carried himself with confidence, not arrogance. Experience. The kind of quiet confidence Cole recognized from military men, law enforcement officers, or people accustomed to difficult situations. Logan accepted a cup of coffee. For several minutes, conversation remained casual. The weather, the island, the town, nothing important. Yet beneath every word, Cole sensed purpose. Logan hadn't crossed a mountain lake during a storm for small talk. Eventually, the stranger got to the point. You found the Donovan records. Cole's eyes narrowed. That was fast. You seem very certain. Logan took a slow sip of coffee. Because people don't break into cabins looking for canned food. The statement landed heavily. Cole didn't respond. Logan leaned back. The moment I heard someone bought Raven Hollow, I came here. Why? Because I've spent 15 years researching the Donovan disappearance. Titan's ears twitched. Cole studied the man carefully. The claim sounded possible, but something felt off. Too prepared. Too rehearsed. What kind of research? Missing persons. Logan looked toward the rain-covered window. Unsolved disappearances all over the Pacific Northwest. He paused. The Donovan case always stood out. Why? Logan's expression darkened. Because it never made sense. Neither man spoke for a moment. The storm rattled the cabin. Thunder rolled across the lake. Finally, Logan continued. The official story is nonsense. Cole nodded. I'm starting to realize that. Good. Logan sat forward. Because those people didn't simply disappear. The certainty in his voice immediately caught attention. Not suspicion. Knowledge. Cole noticed it. So did Titan. The dog had not taken his eyes off Logan since entering the cabin. The shepherd wasn't aggressive, but he clearly didn't trust the man. What do you think happened? Logan hesitated. For the first time, his confidence slipped. Honestly? Cole nodded. Murder. Silence filled the room. Rain hammered the roof. The fire crackled softly. The word lingered. Murder. Logan watched Cole carefully, measuring his reaction, studying him, almost evaluating him. What makes you believe that? Evidence. The answer came too quickly. Then Logan corrected himself. Patterns. Cole noticed. The stranger knew more than he admitted. Far more. The conversation continued for another hour. Throughout it, Logan repeatedly returned to specific topics. Maps, hidden locations, property records, island landmarks. His interest seemed oddly focused. Whenever discussion drifted toward the Donovan family themselves, he showed limited curiosity, but mentioned hidden routes or journals. His attention sharpened instantly. Cole recognized the behavior. A man searching for something specific. A man working toward a goal. The question was why. By midnight, the storm finally weakened. Logan prepared to leave. Before departing, he stopped beside the table, His eyes settled briefly on the copied map Rachel had made, only for a second. Yet Cole saw recognition, instant, unmistakable. Then it vanished. The stranger smiled. "If you find anything else?" He left the sentence unfinished. Cole crossed his arms. "I'll decide what to do with it." Logan accepted the answer. Fair enough. Outside, the rain had slowed. The lake remained rough. The stranger stepped onto the porch, then paused. One final comment. "Be careful who you trust on this island." Cole frowned. "Meaning?" Logan glanced toward the dark forest. "Some people have spent a long time protecting secrets." Then he left. The boat disappeared into darkness. Cole remained on the porch watching until the vessel vanished completely. Something wasn't right. The feeling settled deep inside him. Logan Pierce knew far more than a researcher should. Much more. Titan appeared to agree. The dog remained tense long after the boat disappeared. Back inside, Cole replayed the conversation. Every answer, every hesitation, every strange detail. Then another realization struck him. Logan wasn't the only one behaving strangely. Grant Holloway, the fisherman, the supposedly friendly neighbor. His name had surfaced several times during the evening. Each time Logan's expression changed. Subtle, but noticeable. Recognition, dislike, perhaps even concern. Two men, both connected to Raven Hollow, both clearly hiding something. And somewhere between them sat the truth about the Donovan family. Outside, the storm clouds drifted east. Moonlight emerged briefly through the gaps. The island appeared calm once more. But beneath that calm, something was moving, something hidden, something old. And for the first time since arriving on Raven Hollow Island, Cole Brennan realized he wasn't simply investigating a mystery. He was standing in the middle of it. The realization followed him through the next several days. The island felt different now. Smaller, closer, as though invisible walls were slowly tightening around him. Every trail carried questions. Every shadow carried possibilities. And somewhere between Logan Pierce and Grant Holloway lay a truth neither man wanted fully revealed. The weather finally cleared. Bright autumn sunlight returned to the mountains. The lake shimmered beneath blue skies. Yet the beauty did little to ease Cole's growing unease. The stolen journals remained missing. No new signs of the intruder appeared. But the silence itself felt suspicious. Too quiet. Too controlled. As if someone had stepped back and chosen to watch from farther away. Rachel visited twice during the week. Together they continued examining maps and records. Several marked locations remained unexplored. One symbol in particular attracted their attention. A triangle positioned near the island's northern cliffs. Far from the cabin. Far from the ruined stone lodge. Rachel tapped the map. "I think this should be next." Cole agreed. Titan, lying beside the table, immediately raised his head. The response was so quick that both of them noticed. Rachel smiled nervously. "He keeps doing that." Cole folded the map. "That's because he knows something." The joke wasn't entirely a joke anymore. The next morning arrived cool and clear. Fog drifted across the lake like smoke. The mountains glowed gold beneath the rising sun. Cole packed supplies. Titan waited beside the door. The German shepherd seemed unusually focused, almost impatient. By mid-morning, they were deep inside the island's northern wilderness. The terrain became increasingly rugged. Steep slopes replaced gentle trails. Ancient rock formations emerged from the forest. Massive cliffs overlooked the lake hundreds of feet below. The place felt wild, untouched. Titan moved ahead confidently. never hesitating, never backtracking. Again, Cole noticed the same strange pattern. The dog wasn't exploring. He was traveling towards something. Hours passed. The forest eventually thinned. The cliffs rose higher. The sound of waves crashing against distant rock echoed upward from below. Then Titan suddenly changed direction. Without warning, he disappeared through a dense patch of brush. Cole followed. Branches scraped against his jacket. Loose stones shifted beneath his boots. Then the ground opened. He froze. A narrow opening appeared between two enormous boulders, partially hidden by vines, invisible from more than a few yards away. Titan stood beside it, waiting. Cole stared. Cold air drifted from the darkness. The opening descended into the earth. A cave. A large one. His pulse quickened. Every instinct told him this mattered. Titan entered without hesitation. Cole activated his flashlight, then followed. The passage widened quickly. Natural limestone walls surrounded them. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling. The air felt cool and damp. Their footsteps echoed through darkness. The deeper they traveled, the larger the chambers became. Soon the tunnel opened into a cavern enormous enough to hold a small house. Cole stopped. The beam of his flashlight swept across the room. His heart immediately accelerated. Someone had been here. Not occasionally. Regularly. Old wooden shelving lined portions of the wall. Crude furniture occupied one corner. Storage containers sat stacked neatly together. Blankets, lanterns, tools. The place resembled a hidden shelter. A place designed for survival. A place meant to remain unseen. Titan moved through the cavern with remarkable confidence. No uncertainty, no caution. The dog behaved like he recognized the layout, like he had walked these passages before. The thought should have been impossible, yet increasingly little about Raven Hollow felt impossible. Cole continued exploring. Each discovery deepened the mystery. Several rusted food containers sat near a stone wall, old but not ancient. Nearby stood a weatherproof storage chest. Inside he found batteries, medical supplies, emergency equipment. Some items appeared decades old. Others looked surprisingly recent. That realization sent a chill through him. Someone had used this place long after the Donovan family vanished. Perhaps someone still did. Then he found the radios. 3 emergency communication units sat neatly arranged on a shelf. Dust covered them, but not evenly. One appeared cleaner than the others, recently touched. Cole slowly lowered it. Someone had been here. Maybe weeks ago, maybe days. The cave wasn't merely a historical site. It remained active. Alive. The realization tightened every muscle in his body. Titan suddenly barked once. Sharp, excited. Cole turned. The dog stood near a narrow tunnel branching from the main cavern. His tail moved slowly. Not nervous. Interested. Cole followed. The passage wound deeper underground. The walls narrowed, then opened into another chamber. Smaller, more personal. This room felt different. Less like storage, more like living space. A cot sat against one wall. Nearby rested a small wooden desk. Old books occupied shelves carved directly into stone. Someone had spent considerable time here, possibly years. Cole moved toward the desk. Several items remained scattered across its surface. A compass, a flashlight, a collection of faded photographs. He picked one up, then froze. The image showed a family standing near Raven Hollow's shoreline. The Donovans, Robert, Margaret, their children. A normal family photograph, but that wasn't what captured his attention. Near the edge of the picture sat a German shepherd, young, powerful, alert. Cole's breath caught. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. The dog looked almost identical to Titan. Same coloring, same facial markings, same intelligent eyes. For a moment, the cavern seemed perfectly silent. Cole looked at the photograph, then at Titan, then back again. His pulse hammered. No way. Titan approached quietly. The shepherd stared at the image, then sat beside him. Calm, thoughtful, as if he understood its significance. Cole studied the photograph again. The picture had clearly been taken decades earlier, long before Titan was born. Yet the resemblance was astonishing. The dog in the image could have been a close relative, a parent, a grandparent. The coincidence felt almost unbelievable. Then he noticed something else. The photograph wasn't the only one. Several additional pictures featured the same German shepherd, sometimes beside the Donovan children, sometimes near the house, sometimes standing watch near the shoreline, always present, always close. The animal seemed woven into the family's life, just like Titan had become woven into his. A strange sadness settled over him. The dog in those photographs had clearly been loved, just as Titan was loved now. Whatever happened to the family had happened to their dog too, or perhaps not. The possibility lingered. Titan moved deeper into the chamber. His nose guided him toward a section of wall near the back. Cole followed. The shepherd stopped beside a narrow shelf carved into stone. There, hidden among dust and shadows, sat a small metal box. Cole carefully opened it. Inside rested several documents sealed within waterproof wrapping. Maps, notes, coordinates, and a handwritten message. The ink had faded with age, yet one sentence remained perfectly readable. If anyone finds this, the island remembers. Cole stared at the words. A chill traveled down his spine. The cave seemed darker suddenly, older, filled with secrets waiting beneath decades of silence. Outside, evening shadows slowly stretched across Raven Hollow Island. Far above them, the forest swayed in the mountain wind. But deep beneath the island, among forgotten chambers and hidden shelters, Brennan had just uncovered something far more important than evidence. He had uncovered a connection between the Donovan family, the mysterious cave, and Titan himself. And for the first time since arriving on the island, Cole realized that his loyal German shepherd might be carrying answers neither of them yet understood. The hike back from the cave took longer than expected, not because of distance, because Cole couldn't stop thinking. The photograph, the hidden shelter, the documents, the dog that looked almost identical to Titan. Every discovery seemed connected, yet the connections refused to fully reveal themselves. Twilight settled across Raven Hollow Island by the time they emerged from the forest. The western sky burned orange behind distant mountain peaks. The lake reflected streaks of gold and crimson. For a brief moment, the island looked peaceful, beautiful, the kind of place families might visit to escape the world. But Cole knew better now. Beneath that beauty lay secrets buried for decades, and someone was willing to protect those secrets. Titan walked beside him. The shepherd appeared calm, yet occasionally he glanced toward the forest behind them, checking, listening, watching. The same behavior he'd shown since arriving. When they reached the cabin, Cole immediately secured the new documents inside a locked storage container. Then he called Rachel using a satellite phone she'd loaned him for emergencies. The signal was weak, crackling, but usable. I found something. Rachel listened as Cole described the cave, the hidden shelter, the photograph, the documents. Silence followed. Finally, she spoke. That's impossible. I thought so too. The cave alone changes everything. Cole stared toward the darkening lake. It gets worse. He told her about the photograph, the German shepherd, the resemblance to Titan. Rachel said nothing for several seconds, then quietly replied, "Be careful." Why? Because every time we find something important, someone reacts. Cole looked toward the forest. He couldn't argue with that. The call ended shortly afterward. Night settled fully over Raven Hollow. Clouds rolled in from the mountains. The wind strengthened. A storm was coming. Cole built a fire and reviewed the newly discovered documents. Most contained coordinates, supply inventories, references to emergency locations. One phrase appeared repeatedly: fallback position. The terminology caught his attention immediately. Military language, or something very close to it. The Donovan family had prepared for danger long before they disappeared. The question remained: what danger? A knock interrupted his thoughts. 3 sharp raps against the cabin door. Titan was on his feet instantly. Cole frowned. No one should have been arriving this late, especially with weather moving in. He opened the door. Grant Holloway stood beneath the porch roof. Rain blew behind him. The fisherman carried a lantern and wore a heavy waterproof jacket. His smile appeared friendly as always, maybe a little too friendly. "Evening." Cole nodded cautiously. "Evening." Grant glanced inside. His eyes immediately moved toward the table, toward the documents, toward the storage container. The observation lasted only a second, but Cole noticed. Grant noticed him noticing. Both men pretended otherwise. "Thought I'd check in." Cole said nothing. Grant continued. "Storm's supposed to get nasty. I'll survive." The fisherman laughed softly. "No doubt." For a few moments, the conversation remained casual. Weather, fishing, the island. Yet underneath it all, tension lingered. Something had changed. Cole could feel it. Perhaps Grant sensed it too. Then the fisherman casually asked a question. "Been doing much exploring?" There it was. The same question, again. Always the same curiosity, always directed toward discoveries. Cole answered carefully. "A little." Grant nodded. "Find anything interesting?" The silence between them stretched, long enough to become uncomfortable. Titan stepped closer. The German shepherd's eyes never left Grant. The fisherman noticed. His smile weakened slightly. Then something unexpected happened. Grant's gaze drifted toward the storage container, just briefly, but long enough. Long enough to reveal recognition. Not curiosity. Recognition. The look vanished almost immediately, yet Cole caught it. The fisherman knew exactly what kind of material might be inside. Grant cleared his throat. "If you need anything." The sentence trailed off. Then he left. The lantern disappeared into the darkness. The rain intensified. Cole remained standing in the doorway long after the fisherman vanished. Something finally clicked. Grant wasn't simply curious. He was worried. That realization changed everything. 3 days later, the storm arrived. The mountains disappeared behind curtains of rain. Wind hammered the island. Trees swayed violently. Waves crashed against the shoreline. The lake transformed into a dark, churning sea. Cole spent most of the day inside the cabin. Titan seemed restless. The shepherd paced repeatedly between windows, checking the shoreline, checking the forest. As evening approached, something changed. Titan froze. The dog moved to the front window. His growl emerged immediately. Deep. Serious. Cole crossed the room, then saw it. A boat. Then another, and another. 3 vessels cutting through the storm, headed directly toward Raven Hollow Island. His pulse accelerated. This wasn't a coincidence. These boats weren't fishermen seeking shelter. They were arriving with purpose. Titan barked sharply. Cole grabbed binoculars. Lightning flashed across the lake. The brief illumination revealed several figures aboard the lead boat. Men. Rain jackets. Equipment. Moving with coordination. Another flash. And Cole recognized one of them. Grant Holloway. The fisherman stood at the front of the lead vessel. The friendly neighbor. The helpful guide. The man who kept asking questions. His expression was gone now. No smile. No friendliness. Only determination. Cole's stomach tightened. The truth hit with brutal clarity. Grant had never been helping. He had been watching, monitoring, managing access to the island. For years. Maybe decades. Titan barked again. The boats reached the dock. Several men jumped onto shore. Flashlights cut through the rain. Cole moved quickly. Old instincts took over. The same instincts that had once kept him alert in combat zones. He secured the documents, grabbed essential supplies, checked exits, evaluated options. The cabin would not hold, not against multiple men, not if they wanted inside. A voice echoed through the storm. Grant. Even from a distance, Cole recognized it. Cole. The wind carried the words. We need to talk. Cole almost laughed. Talk. The time for talking had passed. Titan stood ready beside him. The shepherd's posture had changed completely. Every muscle tense, every sense engaged. Protective mode. The same mode that once saved lives overseas. Grant called again. We know what you found. There it was. The truth. No more pretending. No more friendly visits. No more neighborly concern. The fisherman knew exactly what Cole had discovered, and he wanted it. The cabin suddenly felt very small. Lightning flashed. Thunder shook the mountains. The men outside spread into the trees, moving toward the cabin from multiple directions, coordinated, prepared. Cole's military mind immediately recognized the tactic. Containment, control movement, limit escape routes. These men had planned this. For how long? He didn't know, but he knew one thing. Staying would be a mistake. Titan moved toward the rear door. The dog looked back once, waiting, as if he already understood. Cole grabbed his pack. The documents. The flashlight. Nothing more. Another voice echoed outside. Closer now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Grant again. Cole ignored him. The rear door opened. Rain exploded into the cabin. Cold wind followed. The forest beyond appeared black beneath the storm. Dangerous. Unknown, but safer than remaining. Titan charged into the darkness. Cole followed. Within seconds, they vanished among the trees. Behind them, voices erupted. Flashlights swept through the rain. Someone shouted. Someone pointed. The pursuit had begun. Branches whipped across Cole's face. Mud slid beneath his boots. Wind roared through the forest. Titan led the way. Fast. Certain. The shepherd never hesitated. Never slowed. Several times he changed direction abruptly, avoiding obvious routes, using terrain, moving like an animal that knew the island far better than he should. Behind them, lights appeared through the trees. The hunters were following. But Titan kept moving, and somewhere deep within the storm-covered wilderness of Raven Hollow Island, the loyal German shepherd was leading Cole Brennan toward the next chapter of a mystery that had just become a fight for survival. Rain lashed through the forest. Branches bent beneath powerful winds. Thunder rolled continuously across the mountains. The island had become a maze of darkness and noise. Yet Titan never slowed. The German shepherd moved with remarkable confidence, weaving through dense woods, over fallen logs, and across narrow ridges hidden beneath sheets of rain. Cole followed as closely as he could. Years of Navy SEAL training helped, but the terrain was becoming increasingly dangerous. Mud covered every slope. Roots turned into slippery traps. Visibility shrank to only a few yards. Behind them, flashlights moved through the darkness. Grant Holloway's men were still searching, still hunting. The lights appeared and disappeared between trees like distant ghosts. Titan suddenly veered downhill. Cole trusted him immediately. The dog had already saved him more than once. That trust now meant survival. After nearly an hour of hard movement, they reached a narrow ravine sheltered from the worst of the storm. Massive boulders formed natural walls on both sides. A shallow overhang provided temporary cover. Titan finally stopped. Cole leaned against the rock face, breathing hard. Rainwater dripped from his jacket. His legs ached. His heart hammered. For several minutes, neither man nor dog moved. The storm roared overhead. Titan stood at the entrance of the ravine, watching. Always watching. Cole opened his backpack and checked the documents. Still dry, still safe, at least for now. Then another thought struck him. Rachel. If Grant had come after him, what about Rachel? The concern settled heavily in his chest. He pulled out the satellite phone. The signal flickered weakly. After several attempts, the connection finally established. Rachel answered immediately. Cole? Relief flooded her voice. You okay? Barely. He explained everything. Grant's arrival. The armed men. The escape. Rachel listened in silence. When he finished, her response was immediate. You need to stay hidden. No argument there. But Rachel sounded distracted, concerned, more concerned than usual. What is it? A long pause followed. Then she answered, Eli's missing. Cole frowned. Eli Turner? The local teenager had occasionally helped Rachel organize old records and investigate local history. Smart kid. Curious. Always asking questions. Rachel exhaled slowly. He left home this afternoon. When? Around 3. The timing immediately felt wrong. The same time Grant's men had started moving. The same day the attack began. Cole's stomach tightened. You think it's connected? I don't know. The hesitation in Rachel's voice revealed the truth. She absolutely thought it was connected. Neither wanted to say it aloud. The call ended shortly afterward. The signal failed completely as the storm intensified. Cole sat silently beneath the rock overhang. The pieces were starting to form a terrible picture. Grant wasn't simply protecting secrets anymore. He was becoming desperate. Desperate people made dangerous decisions. Titan suddenly stiffened. The dog stepped away from the shelter. His ears locked forward. Something had caught his attention. What is it? The shepherd moved toward the ravine entrance. Cole followed. At first he saw nothing. Then a faint light appeared through the rain. Not approaching. Stationary. Somewhere deeper in the forest. Titan started moving immediately, without hesitation. Cole grabbed his gear and followed. The journey took nearly 30 minutes. The terrain became rougher, the forest denser. The light occasionally disappeared behind trees before reappearing farther ahead. Eventually they reached a narrow clearing, and there, partially hidden among the pines, stood an old ranger outpost. The structure looked abandoned, weathered, forgotten. One window glowed faintly, light from inside. Titan approached carefully. Cole crouched near the wall, listening. At first he heard only the storm, then voices, muffled, distant, human. His pulse accelerated. Someone was inside. Titan growled softly. The sound carried urgency, recognition. Cole carefully moved closer. A crack in the wall provided a narrow view. Inside sat two men. Neither was Grant, but both wore the same rain gear he'd seen earlier. A portable lantern illuminated the room. Maps covered a table. Radio equipment sat nearby. The men appeared frustrated, arguing. Cole listened carefully. Most of the conversation was difficult to hear. Then one sentence reached him clearly. Grant says the kid stays put until Brennan gives up the documents. Cole froze. The kid, another voice responded. We should have never brought him here. Cole's blood ran cold. Eli. The teenager had been taken. Not lost, not missing. Taken. The realization hit with brutal force. Titan seemed to understand the importance immediately. The dog's posture changed, protective, focused. Cole slowly backed away from the wall. He needed information, not confrontation. Not yet. Two men inside, possibly more nearby. Storm conditions, unknown terrain. The situation demanded patience, a lesson he had learned repeatedly during military operations. Rushing got people hurt. Planning saved lives. They retreated quietly into the forest. Only after putting significant distance between themselves and the outpost did Cole stop. Titan sat beside him. Rain continued pouring from the sky. The forest swayed violently in the wind. Yet for a moment, everything felt strangely still. The mystery had changed again. The island's secrets were no longer the only problem. A teenager's life now hung in the balance. And somehow the responsibility felt personal. Painfully personal. Memories surfaced without warning. Faces from overseas. Young soldiers. Civilians caught in impossible situations. People who depended on others making the right decision. Cole closed his eyes briefly. PTSD wasn't always loud. Sometimes it arrived quietly. Through memory. Through guilt. Through questions that never fully disappeared. Titan stepped closer. The German shepherd pressed against his shoulder, grounding him, steadying him, the same way he had done countless times before. Cole rested a hand on the dog's neck. The simple contact helped. It always did. You know that, don't you? Titan looked up. Calm. Present. Loyal. The bond between them felt stronger than ever. Out here in the middle of a storm, surrounded by enemies and uncertainty, the dog remained the one thing Cole trusted completely. Hours later, near midnight, a voice crackled through the satellite phone. Weak, distorted. Grant Holloway. Cole immediately recognized him. The fisherman sounded calm, too calm. You listening, Brennan? Cole said nothing. Grant continued. You have something I need. The storm hissed across the connection. I have something you need. Cole's stomach tightened. The answer was already obvious. Eli Turner. Silence followed. Then Grant spoke again. Smart man. Lightning flashed overhead. Thunder shook the forest. Cole listened. Every word mattered now. Tomorrow. Grant's voice remained steady. You bring the documents. Another pause. And the kid goes home. The implication required no explanation. Cole stared into the darkness. Titan remained beside him, watching, listening. The line crackled again, then went dead. The storm swallowed the silence that followed. Cole slowly lowered the phone. The situation had changed completely. This was no longer about hidden journals, or missing families, or old mysteries. An innocent teenager had become leverage, a bargaining chip in a struggle decades in the making. And Grant Holloway had just forced Cole Brennan into a choice he knew all too well, a choice between surrendering the truth or risking someone else's future. Far beyond the trees, somewhere on Raven Hollow Island, Eli Turner was waiting, and for the first time since arriving on the island, Cole realized that finding answers might no longer be enough. Now he had to save a life. The storm showed no signs of weakening. By dawn, Raven Hollow Island looked like a world under siege. Waves crashed violently against the shoreline. Massive pine trees bent beneath relentless winds. Sheets of rain swept across the wilderness, turning trails into rivers and low ground into swamps. Cole stood beneath the shelter of a rocky overhang overlooking the lake. Titan sat beside him. Neither had slept much. The ultimatum from Grant Holloway echoed constantly through Cole's thoughts. Bring the documents, or Eli suffers the consequences. The threat was simple, cruel, and effective. Grant knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't negotiating. He was forcing a choice. The same kind of impossible choice Cole had faced during military operations years earlier. Lives balanced against objectives. Emotion balanced against duty. The memories came flooding back. Faces, voices, moments he had spent years trying to bury. His breathing became shallow. The familiar pressure returned. The tightening chest, the racing thoughts, the feeling that the world was closing in. PTSD never announced itself. It simply arrived. Titan immediately noticed. The German shepherd pressed against his leg, grounding him, pulling him back into the present. Cole placed a hand on the dog's neck, slowly, deliberately. The panic receded. Not completely, but enough. Still saving me. Titan looked up. The shepherd's steady gaze carried a reassurance words never could. Then movement caught Cole's attention. A figure appeared through the rain, approaching from the forest. Titan rose instantly, alert, protective. Cole reached for the flashlight clipped to his pack. The figure stepped into view. Logan Pierce, soaked by rain, breathing hard, moving with urgency. "What are you doing here?" Logan stopped several feet away. His expression was serious, more serious than Cole had ever seen. "We don't have much time." That immediately raised every alarm. Cole remained silent. Logan glanced around before continuing. Grant took the boy. "I know." The surprise on Logan's face lasted only a second. Then he nodded. "Good." "Good? It means you're already ahead of where I thought you'd be." Cole's patience was wearing thin. "What exactly do you want?" Rain poured between them. The wind howled across the rocks. For several moments, Logan simply stared at him. Then he said something unexpected. "I want the same thing you do." Cole didn't believe that. Not yet. Logan seemed to understand. Without another word, he reached into his jacket and removed an old photograph protected inside a waterproof sleeve. He handed it over. Cole studied the image. His heart immediately accelerated. The photograph showed the Donovan family, Robert, Margaret, their children. The same family he'd seen countless times inside the journals. But there was something different. One of the boys stood beside a dock, perhaps 10 years old, smiling. The resemblance was unmistakable. Cole slowly looked up, then back at the photograph, then at Logan. "No." Logan nodded once. "Yes." The rain seemed to disappear. The storm faded into the background. Everything narrowed to that single moment. You. My name isn't Logan Pierce. The man swallowed. His voice softened. It's Nathan Donovan. Silence. Cole simply stared. The missing family. The vanished children. One of them had survived. The realization hit with incredible force. Nathan continued. I've spent 32 years trying to prove what happened. The confession carried exhaustion, pain, a lifetime of unanswered questions. Cole finally found his voice. You knew. Nathan nodded. I suspected. Suspected what? That Grant was involved. The storm intensified again. Lightning flashed across the mountains. Thunder rolled overhead. Nathan looked toward the dark forest. The problem was proving it. He explained everything. The years of searching, the false leads, the dead ends, the countless records hidden, altered, or destroyed. Every trail eventually pointed back toward Raven Hollow Island, and somehow, always, toward Grant Holloway. Yet proof never surfaced. Not enough for law enforcement. Not enough for prosecutors. Not enough for justice. Then Cole arrived. The new owner. The outsider. The man nobody expected. And suddenly evidence began appearing. The hidden room. The journals. The maps. The cave. Nathan looked directly at him. You found more in 3 weeks than I found in 30 years. Cole wasn't sure how to respond. The responsibility felt heavier than ever. Then Nathan said something else. Something that changed everything. Grant's scared. Cole frowned. What makes you think that? Nathan almost laughed. Because he's making mistakes. The kidnapping, the attack, the threats. Desperate people became reckless, and Grant was becoming desperate. Titan suddenly moved. The German shepherd stepped toward the forest. His ears locked forward. Every muscle tensed. Nathan noticed. So that's Titan. Cole nodded. Nathan studied the dog carefully, longer than most people did. Something strange crossed his face. Recognition, confusion, almost disbelief. Before he could speak, a distant sound echoed through the storm. An engine. Both men turned. A boat. Moving rapidly across the lake. Then another. And another. Cole's stomach tightened. Something was happening. Nathan looked toward the shoreline. His expression darkened. Grant's moving. Moving where? The caves. Cole froze. The caves. The hidden shelter. The underground network beneath the island. Nathan nodded. He always goes there when things fall apart. Lightning illuminated the mountains. The storm intensified again. Rain hammered the forest. Titan growled softly. Nathan continued. The caves are where everything started. The statement lingered. Heavy. Important. Cole already knew the answer before asking. And where everything ends. Nathan met his gaze. Probably. For several moments, nobody spoke. The island seemed to hold its breath. The storm roared around them. The truth was finally emerging. Not all of it. Not yet, but enough to reveal the shape of something larger, something darker. Grant wasn't simply protecting a secret. He was protecting the truth about what happened to the Donovan family. And now, with Eli's life hanging in the balance, every road led toward the same destination. The caves beneath Raven Hollow Island, the place where secrets had survived for 3 decades, the place where answers waited, the place where the final confrontation was beginning. Titan stepped forward first. Staring into the rain, into the darkness, into the storm. As if he already knew exactly where they needed to go, and for the first time since arriving on Raven Hollow Island, Cole realized the mystery was no longer unfolding. It was reaching its breaking point. The journey to the caves became a battle against nature itself. Rain hammered the island without mercy. Water rushed down slopes like rivers. Entire sections of forest had become impassable. Branches littered the ground. Trees groaned beneath hurricane-force winds. Yet Titan pushed forward. The German Shepherd moved with astonishing confidence through terrain that had become nearly impossible for human travel. Nathan Donovan followed closely behind. Cole brought up the rear. Lightning illuminated the wilderness in brief flashes of silver and white. Each flash revealed a landscape transformed by the storm. Raven Hollow Island no longer looked like a peaceful retreat. It looked like a battlefield. By late afternoon, they reached the concealed cave entrance. Water poured from the cliffs above. The hidden opening remained visible only because Titan led them directly to it. Without him, they might have walked past it entirely. Nathan paused at the entrance. For a moment, emotion crossed his face. Pain, memory, recognition. I haven't been here in 20 years. Cole looked at him. You came back? Nathan nodded. Once. The answer carried weight, the kind of weight people carried for decades. Then Titan entered the cave. The others followed. Inside, the storm became a distant roar. The air felt cooler, still. Yet something immediately felt wrong. The cave was changing. Water seeped through cracks in the stone. Small streams flowed across the floor. The flooding had already begun. Time was running out. They moved deeper into the underground network. The familiar chambers looked different now. Darker, more threatening. The rising water transformed every tunnel into a potential trap. Titan moved ahead, not cautiously, confidently, as though he knew exactly where he was going. Again, the same impossible certainty. Nathan noticed it too. Finally, he spoke. How long have you had him? 9 years. Nathan nodded slowly. And before that? Retired military breeding program. The older man stopped walking, his eyes fixed on Titan. A strange expression crossed his face, something between realization and disbelief. What? Nathan looked toward the dog, then back at Cole. The Donovan family didn't just own land. Cole waited. Nathan continued. My father employed private security. The statement seemed harmless. At first. Then Nathan added something else. They used working dogs. Cole felt a chill. The pieces began moving. Slowly. Dangerously. Nathan continued walking. His voice echoed through the cavern. The original security kennel stood near the northern cliffs. Titan's ears twitched. Nathan noticed. So did that. Cole stared at the dog. What are you saying? Nathan took a deep breath. The shepherd in those photographs. Silence filled the cave. The one that looks like Titan. Cole's pulse accelerated. What about him? Nathan stopped beside a stone wall. The dog's name was Ranger. The answer hit harder than expected. Nathan continued. Ranger was bred from a bloodline specifically developed for tracking, search work, and wilderness security. Titan stood motionless, listening. Nathan smiled sadly. My brother loved that dog. The words echoed through the cavern. Then something clicked. Cole remembered the photographs. The boy standing beside the German shepherd. The bond between them. The familiarity. Everything. Nathan continued. After the family disappeared, nobody knew what happened to Ranger. The rising water splashed quietly against stone. The storm roared somewhere above, yet neither man moved. Both listened. Years later, Nathan said, several dogs from that bloodline entered military working programs. Cole slowly looked toward Titan. Understanding began forming. Not complete, but close. Nathan nodded. Same bloodline. The cave suddenly felt smaller. The realization larger. Titan wasn't connected to the island by coincidence. The connection ran deeper, far deeper. The scents, the landmarks, the hidden trails, the old structures, everything the dog had recognized suddenly made sense. Generations of working dogs had been trained on Raven Hollow Island. Their handlers had used the terrain for tracking exercises, navigation drills, search operations. The island was part of their history, part of their instincts, part of their memory. Titan approached a narrow passage. Without hesitation, he turned down it. The others followed. The tunnel opened into another flooded chamber. Here, the water reached nearly knee-deep. Floating debris drifted slowly through the room. Cole scanned the area, then froze. The walls. Someone had carved markings into the stone. Dates, names, coordinates, messages, years of history hidden underground. Nathan stepped forward. His flashlight beam moved across the carvings, then stopped. His face drained of color. Oh my God. Cole moved beside him. The inscription was simple, yet devastating. Robert Donovan, Margaret Donovan, we never left, Lance followed. The meaning was unmistakable. Nathan stared at the words. 32 years of uncertainty collapsed in an instant. His family had not disappeared. They had died here, somewhere within these caves. The realization hit like a physical blow. Nathan lowered his head. For several moments he couldn't speak. Cole remained silent. There was nothing to say. No words could soften that truth. Then Titan growled. The sound immediately changed everything. The shepherd's posture became rigid, protective, focused. Someone was nearby. Flashlights appeared ahead. Several beams cutting through darkness. Voices echoed through the flooded tunnels. Grant's men. Cole immediately extinguished his light. Nathan did the same. The cave plunged into near darkness. Only distant flashes of lightning filtering through cracks above provided occasional illumination. The voices grew closer. Cole listened carefully, then heard something else. A familiar voice. Young. Scared. Eli. The teenager was alive. Relief surged through him. Briefly. Because the next realization followed immediately. Grant was bringing the boy deeper into the caves, toward them, toward the final confrontation. The situation was changing fast. Titan crouched low, watching, listening, waiting. The dog seemed completely focused. Every movement controlled, every sense engaged. And suddenly, Cole understood something that hit him harder than any revelation about bloodlines or photographs. Titan had been guiding him toward this moment from the very beginning. Not by magic, not by coincidence, but through instinct, training, memory, the hidden room, the trails, the cave, the shelter. Every discovery, every clue, every step, the German shepherd had led him here. To the truth, to Nathan, to Eli, to the place where the mystery began. A surge of emotion tightened Cole's throat. He reached down and rested a hand on Titan's shoulder. The dog briefly looked back. Their eyes met. 9 years together. Deployments, trauma, loss, recovery. The bond between them had already survived more than most people could imagine. Now it had carried them to the center of a 32-year-old mystery. Water continued rising around them. The storm continued raging overhead. Voices moved closer through the darkness. and somewhere ahead waited Grant Holloway, the man who had spent decades protecting a terrible secret, the man who finally had nowhere left to hide. The final chapter was beginning. Water rushed through the caves with growing force. What had once been hidden chambers and narrow passageways were becoming underground rivers. The storm above Raven Hollow Island had reached its peak. Every minute brought more flooding. Every minute reduced their options. Cole Brennan crouched beside Titan in darkness. Nathan Donovan remained nearby. Ahead, flashlight beams danced across the cave walls. Grant Holloway's men were moving deeper into the tunnels, and somewhere among them was Eli Turner. The teenager's life still hung in the balance. Titan's growl remained low, controlled, focused. The shepherd's eyes tracked every movement ahead. Cole trusted him completely. Years of service had built that trust. Years of surviving together had strengthened it. Now that bond would be tested one final time. The voices grew louder. Then suddenly, they stopped. A new voice echoed through the cavern. Grant. Calm, confident, certain. For the first time in days, Cole could hear him clearly. The fisherman stood inside a large central chamber illuminated by lanterns and portable lights. Floodwater swirled around his boots. Eli sat nearby against a rock wall, wet, exhausted, but alive. Relief washed through Cole. The teenager looked frightened but unharmed. Grant continued speaking. His voice carried easily through the cave. It should have stayed buried. Nathan's jaw tightened. The older man stared into the darkness toward the voice he had chased for decades. Grant laughed softly. 32 years. The fisherman shook his head. 32 years, and you still couldn't let it go. Nathan stepped forward. The movement immediately drew attention. Flashlights swung toward him. Grant froze. For the first time since meeting him, genuine surprise appeared on the fisherman's face. Nathan. The name echoed through the cavern. Not Logan. Not stranger. Nathan. The surviving Donovan's son. Grant's expression slowly darkened. I should have known. Nathan's voice remained steady. You murdered them. Silence followed. The rushing water filled the cave. The storm roared overhead. Grant looked away briefly, almost regretfully. Then he sighed. They weren't supposed to die. The confession hit like a physical blow. Nathan stared. Cole stared. Even Grant's own men looked shocked. The fisherman lowered his lantern. My agreement was simple. His voice softened. Take the money. Take the land. Make them leave. Nathan clenched his fists. Grant continued. But Robert wouldn't cooperate. The words emerged slowly, like a burden finally becoming too heavy to carry. He fought. Another pause. Everything went wrong after that. The cave seemed smaller now. The truth was finally emerging. Not rumors, not theories. The truth. Grant had betrayed the Donovan family decades earlier. Land rights, money, control, greed disguised as opportunity. The confrontation that followed had destroyed an entire family, and Grant had spent 32 years hiding the evidence. Nathan's voice trembled. My mother. Grant looked away. The answer itself was enough. No details needed. The silence that followed carried all the weight. Floodwater rose higher. The cave groaned. Somewhere deeper inside, stone cracked. The storm was beginning to tear the underground system apart. Then everything changed. One of Grant's men shouted, "Water!" A surge rushed through a side passage. The current slammed into the chamber. Lanterns toppled. People stumbled. The flooding had accelerated dramatically. Panic spread instantly. The cave was collapsing. Grant looked around. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Not fear of Nathan. Not fear of justice. Fear of nature. Fear of dying inside the place where he had buried his secrets. The chamber erupted into chaos. Water surged higher. Equipment floated away. Lights flickered. Rock fragments crashed from the ceiling. Eli struggled to keep his footing. Then disaster struck. A section of stone broke loose above him. The teenager never saw it coming. Neither did anyone else, except Titan. The German shepherd launched himself forward, without hesitation, without command. Pure instinct. Pure loyalty. The impact echoed through the cavern. The falling debris missed Eli. But Titan absorbed part of the blow. The dog cried out. The sound tore through Cole like a knife. Titan! The shepherd hit the water hard. For a terrifying moment, he disappeared beneath the current. Cole moved instantly. Every lesson from his SEAL career returned. Focus, action, purpose. Nothing else mattered. He fought through the rushing water, reached Titan, pulled the dog free. The German shepherd struggled to stand, one foreleg injured, breathing hard, but alive. Still trying to protect, still trying to work. Emotion hit Cole harder than any battle ever had. He dropped to one knee beside the dog. Easy, buddy. Titan leaned against him, exhausted, but determined. The bond between them had survived war, loss, homelessness, trauma. Now it survived this. Nathan reached Eli. The teenager was shaken but safe. Relief flooded his face. Then another crash echoed through the cave. The entire chamber trembled. Everyone understood. If they stayed, nobody would leave alive. Grant understood it too. His shoulders sagged. The fight was gone. The decades of lies, the years of hiding, the endless manipulation, all of it had finally ended. Outside help arrived minutes later. Rachel Dawson had managed to contact emergency responders before communications failed. Rescue teams reached the island as the storm began weakening. One by one, survivors emerged from the caves, into rain, into fresh air, into daylight. For the first time in decades, the truth left Raven Hollow Island. Months passed. Winter arrived. Then spring. Grant Holloway faced justice for his role in the crimes that had destroyed the Donovan family. The evidence recovered from the caves finally revealed what had happened. Nathan Donovan received something he had spent most of his life chasing. Answers. Not perfect closure. Nothing could provide that. But truth. And sometimes truth was enough. Eli recovered fully. Rachel remained by his side throughout the process, helping him heal, helping the community heal, because the mystery had affected far more people than anyone realized. And Titan. The old military K9 carried scars from the cave. A slight limp remained, a permanent reminder of the final battle. Yet he never complained, never slowed down much, never stopped watching over the people he loved. Especially Cole. The greatest change happened on Raven Hollow Island itself. What had once been a place of fear became something entirely different, a place of healing. Nathan donated much of the property. Rachel helped organize the project. Local volunteers joined. Veterans contributed. First responders offered support. Together they transformed Raven Hollow into a wilderness retreat for veterans struggling with trauma, retired working dogs, and families rebuilding their lives after hardship. A place where people could recover. A place where they could belong. For Cole Brennan, the change was personal. For years he had drifted. Truck stops, parking lots, temporary jobs. One day blending into another. After Sarah's death, Hope had slowly disappeared. But Raven Hollow changed that. Not overnight. Healing never worked that way. But little by little, one sunrise at a time, one conversation at a time, one step at a time, the island became home. A real home. The first one he had known in years. One spring morning, nearly a year after arriving on the island, Cole stood on the rebuilt dock overlooking the lake. The water was calm. The mountains reflected perfectly across the surface. Birds circled above the shoreline. The island looked peaceful. Finally. Titan sat beside him. Older. Scarred. His injured leg slightly stiff. Yet his eyes remained bright. Alert. Loyal. Cole rested a hand on the shepherd's neck. The same gesture he had made thousands of times before. The same gesture that always reminded him he wasn't alone. Not anymore. Nathan approached from the trail. Rachel followed. Behind them stood visitors arriving for one of the retreat's first programs. Veterans, families, retired working dogs, people carrying burdens of their own. People searching for healing. The same thing Cole had been searching for when he bought an impossible island for $900. He smiled. Titan's tail moved gently. The German shepherd looked across the water, watching, always watching, but not for danger this time, for peace, for belonging, for the future. The island nobody wanted had become the place where broken people found hope again. And as sunlight spilled across Raven Hollow Lake, Cole realized something he never thought he would feel after losing Sarah. Not happiness, not exactly. Something deeper, something steadier. Hope. And beside him sat the dog who had led him there. The loyal partner who never stopped believing there was still a path forward. Together, they watched the sunrise. Two survivors carrying scars. Both still standing. Both finally home. If you believe loyalty and perseverance still matter in this country, comment yes below. And if you've ever had a faithful dog or a friend who stood by you through hard times, we'd love to hear your story. Remember, the truth has a way of coming to light, and good people who keep going often find their way home. Subscribe if you'd like to join us for more stories about justice, dignity, and the strength to keep moving forward.